the summer and the potential changes seem to be going hand in hand with it at the moment, maybe because we're set to win it before May. But there are positives when we talk about contracts, and we've talked about contracts, David, 80 billion times, but we got the most important one done on Thursday, didn't we?
Yeah. Well, what do you think? Do you think he's the most important? Is that your?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. And a lot of people think that. I mean, for me, my personal view is that it was Mo Salah, just because I think forwards and goals are very, the hardest thing to do in football. The thing that they kind of cost the most money. And so the idea of going into a season next year where you'd have to find a top scorer from somewhere, for me, would have been an absolute nightmare. And so I do personally just put Salah ahead of Van Dijk. But I mean, crikey, there's no getting away from how important this guy was as well. I mean, your captain, leader at the back, the best centre-back in the world without a shadow of a doubt. So, yeah, very, very important to get this one done. And a big boost because, it's a big boost for fans. I'm sure the fans who spent a whole season moaning about this, despite us talking about Liverpool's kind of confidence around it, I'm sure they're finally happy now, which is nice. But it gives Liverpool less to do in the summer. I think it gives you a baseline of performance going into next season that will be there. Liverpool's drop off, if there is to be any, won't be too great because they've got these two great players signed up. So that is really reassuring, I think. So and it makes the summer easier for the sporting director in terms of what they need to bring in. So that is always massively helpful as well.
And with these two, because this is different from any previous renewal for this pair. They know this is their last few elite years, if you want to call it that, or at the top. They are not committing these to Liverpool unless Richard Hughes or whoever has told them, like, listen, this player's coming in, this is our plans. They'll have a real inkling, which Virgil alluded to the other day. They'll have a sense of that.
Yeah, but I think we can kind of oversell this because at the end of the day, they'll be looking at it thinking, well, the squad we've got at the moment is walking the Premier League. And so I don't think the promises would have had to be absolutely huge that we're signing X, Y, and Z to keep these players, because both of them as well said, they absolutely love it here. They're on really good money, by the way. And they're in a team that is winning at the moment. So I don't think they necessarily need any big guarantees to want to stay. But I think it's clear that there are going to be changes this summer as well. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, oh, well, we've told Mo Salah that we're going to get Isak and that's the reason he's going to stay, because Liverpool don't do that anyway, do they? I mean, you look at the Bellingham summer where they signed Alexis McAllister for 30-odd million. He was quite a good signing in the end. Even, Endo, Szoboszlai, all really good. Gravenberg for 30-odd million as well. I mean, crazy signing. So I don't think any promises have been made necessarily about, we're going to spend a load of money, but I think it's going to be, we are going to keep signing good players who will make this team better. And we've proven we can do that in the past and we're going to do it again. And if we do that, the likelihood is you'll be part of a successful team because you guys are already very good as well. So I think there will have been conversations around that, but I really don't think these players would have necessarily asked for massive promises around that.
Will be interesting to see what they've been told. But I mean, the forward line, we've kind of alluded to this. I mean, if there was any doubt over what's happening with Darwin Nunez, it's like a 1% variation there, surely. But there was that quote from Arne Slot in the embargo. I'm sure you've clocked it, about the rumours of bust up. I know we talked about illness the other week. He said he didn't feel himself the day before the match. He went inside and wasn't able to be part of the team the day after. No, he didn't have a row. He did leave the pitch because he didn't feel himself. And he said it wasn't necessarily an illness or an injury. That almost leads in towards something where people are thinking, is he mentally there? Is he struggling with mental health, mentally checked out in any way? There's almost a sadness to this. It feels like almost that when we win the league and we'll have that celebration, for Darwin Nunez's sake, he needs to move on quickly now, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I was in that embargoed section for the iPaper, so I saw Slot say this, and there was very much a smile on his face while he was saying it in terms of not wanting to give too much away, but it clearly says that something had gone on behind the scenes for him not to take part in that training session, and that the illness explanation that was initially given, I think, was complete nonsense, really. So he's kind of given that one away, really, in the end. But it's Yeah, you don't want this. There's no need for this situation to turn sour at the end of the day. I think it's been agreed. We spoke as far back as probably, December even, where I think I've been saying on this podcast that I expect Darwin Nunez to leave in the summer window, and clearly we're here now where that's going to happen, and just leave on good terms. At the end of the day, we've been banging that drum about just try and contribute to a title win. Leave on good terms. Make sure it's a nice way to leave, and so he's clearly trying to do that at the moment. But you're just hearing little stories like this, and it makes you a little concerned that he's leaving on bad terms. But I think the manager in the end has done enough to kind of shut it down a little bit. I guess he's not thrown more fuel on the fire. At least we can probably say that. And so maybe he does open up the opportunity for it to end on good terms. And there's only a few more games now, and it'll be how much can he get for him, and where does he end up? But he will definitely go, and it's all about trying to find a replacement for Liverpool after that.
Yeah, Jonathan there saying, I wonder how much we're getting for him, which amounts to probably an important part in the transfer market now, because numbers are starting to be put next to names. And one that's been prominent, we've talked about Hugo Ekitike before and where that noise may be coming from. This was the big story from a few sources around him, that Frankfurt have put 100 million price tag on his head. If Liverpool liked him a little bit, they won't like him at all at 100 million euros, will they?
No, not a chance, to be honest. I've been kind of skeptical about the potential for this signing for a while now, and I think he's definitely someone Liverpool are keeping an eye on, in the sense that he's scoring goals at a high level. He's a young player. He's representing his. He's on the international stage as well, isn't he? So there's obviously, this is the type of player we'll keep an eye on. But in terms of them progressing with it, like I say, I'm getting increasingly skeptical about this. I mean, that price tag is outrageous for someone who is as raw as he seems. To go from Nunez to him would maybe the potential. And I'm not a scout, I must emphasize this, so I may be wrong about this from my having watched him, but it would feel a little bit to me on the surface of going out the frying pan into the fire with that, in terms of going from Nunez to him. Just still seems to me to be rough edges. But also, the thing that's making me skeptical is I haven't really kind of been given any encouragement on the name from Liverpool's side either, that he's someone who's being, talked about a lot at the training ground, or someone they're kind of raving about. I'm just not convinced that is the case, to be honest. So, I'm increasingly skeptical this will happen, and I think a lot of the talk is agent driven. And I think if Liverpool had kind of settled on him as their number one striker target for this summer, they will be saying to his agent, his representatives, just keep a lid on this now, because we will come in the summer. You don't have to worry about all that. We'll agree terms with you. We know what we have to do to get the player out of Eintracht Frankfurt. But that's not the case. There's a lot of talk going on, and it just makes me think that there's, if Liverpool were firmly there and really pushing and had decided he was number one target, I just don't think this chatter would be going on. So, you combine that with the price that he's up for and that general rawness that I've seen. But as I say, I just want to, there's a caveat there. I'm not a scout, so maybe I'm wrong about that. But what I've seen, it just makes me think he's not going to be someone Liverpool signed this summer.
Yeah, especially it does feel less and less from all the noise that's developing. And you alluded to it earlier, because we talked about Jota at the moment, Chiesa, all these parts. Liverpool are going to want a ready-made, a plug-and-play forward, whether that be on the left or a number 9, who can really support Mo Salah, aren't they? It would be a surprise, and it may take a while for the name to break, whoever it is, whoever they go in for. But Liverpool are very much going to be going in for someone who's ready right now to make a big difference, aren't they?
Yeah, I just think it makes very little sense to go from Nunez to another project forward. You've kind of gone through that and it's not worked out. You need someone who is ready at the highest level. I mean, one thing to say is maybe it doesn't have to be an out-and-out centre forward, by the way. Maybe you can find, use Ousmane Dembele at PSG as the example of someone who can kind of play that role. I mean, I know they've used Diaz this season, but someone who's a little bit better suited and a bit more of a goal scorer in that role. It doesn't, maybe it will be someone we can't even imagine at the moment. But yeah, it has to be someone who hits the ground running. They have to get that forward signing absolutely right this time. And yeah, be fascinating to see who it is. But it's a clear need, isn't it, for Liverpool this summer? And they've generally been very good at signings. So yeah, just really interested to see who it's going to end up being.
It does almost feel like, because Arsenal are going to be in that market as well. If Liverpool get a top elite goal scorer, be it on the left side, whoever, to complement Mo Salah, they can well start next season as favourites again. It does feel it will be almost the pivotal one there. But moving back down the team, no one's liking what they're hearing around this, David. I know you'll have clocked it that Konate, he's going to be 12 months left to go on his contract. And Paul Joyce referenced it. It doesn't appear particularly advanced. And the figures that were coming out suggesting that he's on around 80, looking for 200, so more than doubling his wages there as well. It seems to be correlating at the same time as the Dean Huijsen noise. It is very much ramping up, and Liverpool are clearly in there. Is there a worry? And maybe you're going to allay this, maybe you're going to fan it more in the best way. Liverpool could be 1 in, 1 out here, which is not what anyone is looking for.
Well, I think it would have to be 1 in, 1 out, regardless, to be honest, because I think a lot of the centre half need is based on Joe Gomez departing this summer, which is something I expect to happen. So I think there's potential in terms of that. But as you say, I think it will be a concern to go from Konate down to Huijsen. Personally, I just think as big a talent as Huijsen is, and I think he's someone Liverpool should look to sign. He's not in Konate's class at the moment. Absolutely not. And I think, what a big part of this summer for me is, as much as, it could end up being kind of 5 or 6 signings that Liverpool end up making, because there's going to need to be replacements for certain players. Yeah. But I think the ideal situation is that you don't make 5 or 6 changes to your starting 11. You only want to make 1 or 2. And that would, for me, the clear priorities in terms of doing that would be left back, a new starting left back, and a new starting centre forward. I don't really want to see sweeping changes outside of that, because I think the lack of continuity there will lead to a very slow start. And then, slow start basically puts you out the title race. So you don't want to see someone like Konate going. But obviously, we're not getting great encouragement at the moment in terms of his contract negotiations. I was getting that a while ago, and things seem to have changed a little bit, which is interesting. Maybe that PSG interest is turning his head, but it's just another thing that Liverpool are going to have to do this summer. And as I say, it'll be dragging someone out of the starting 11 to put someone else in. And that is a little bit of a problem and can cause you issues. So yeah, a little bit of a concern, I would say, going into this summer, but there's still time to sort it out, and we'll see if there's any movement on that.
Yeah, because Huijsen coming in to support Konate and VVD is brilliant. It sounds perfect, exactly what you're looking for. Huijsen, as you said, as good a talent as he is, replacing Konate. I don't think anyone's really looking for that. I'm not convinced Liverpool are looking for that at this stage either at all. One thing that some Liverpool fans are looking for, I never thought I'd put a photo of Calvin Harris on this show, but there he is, right in between Virgil van Dijk and Mr. Kevin De Bruyne, who said this week, he's leaving. He kind of seemed a bit disgruntled in his interview and saying he wants to stay at this level, which kind of, you wonder, sort of rules out all these links to Saudi, all these links to the MLS and this type of thing. A lot of Liverpool fans are manifesting this one. And already people there putting KDB, I would. I can see you shaking your head. You wouldn't.
I mean, I've watched him this season as nobody else. This is what I've seen there's a little bit of a social media campaign getting going, and I just think he looks absolutely miles off it physically. I mean, those injuries, what a marvelous player, by the way, he has been down the years. But, he just doesn't look at that level for me anymore. I mean, maybe he can score the odd free kick or whatever. But in terms of an open play, just, like I say, physically an absolute million miles off it, which is the reason that City are kind of getting rid of him, really. So, not one I'd like to see. And also, Liverpool fans, as good as he has been down the years, he's given Liverpool a lot of pain as well. So I can't really understand why everybody's willing to put that one to one side either. But yeah, just it's not one I can see Liverpool going forward with his wages and his injury history at the moment. I think they need younger players to be coming in and not someone who is coming to the latter stages of the career.
No chance of it. Liverpool need more creativity with Trent going, a player that can play across the front line, make something happen, low block, just wages, age, injuries, a straight no for you?
Well, he just hasn't. He isn't that player anymore either, is he? I mean, as much as you can talk about him bringing creativity, but he kind of runs like he's in mud at the moment. So that gives you real problems in transition. And look at City. We just watched a City game this season. He's nowhere near what he used to be. So not not a good signing. Not even even if you can't account for wages, injury history, or whatever, in terms of is this player good enough to get in the Liverpool team at the moment? And he isn't, because he's not good enough to get in City's team.
Yeah, I think that might well and truly pop the pin on that one. And we talked about this before, but the big summer element, you'll know this is trending, people talking about it. And there's been comments, as you know, from David Ornstein's mentioned it. Virgil van Dijk had a reference to what he's led to believe, as he said, which left people a bit questioning. Paul Joyce's article the other day mentioning the words big summer in the headline as well. Is there an almost understanding for you, just from what we're seeing as well, why some Liverpool fans, and it might be a dramatic phrase, but would almost be feeling a bit gaslit if it was only 1 or 2 in and a quiet? There's just a lot of expectation. A lot of things are going to happen this summer.
No, I think it's fair to say that, but I just don't think it's going to be that kind of summer. Like I say, I've absolutely been committed in recent years to not saying anything like this about a big summer. But I had another conversation on Friday that again kind of convinced me that this is going to be that. And I would never have said that out loud before, because I've never felt that Liverpool needed it. Maybe a big summer in terms of when they completely revolutionised the midfield. But again, the money wasn't outrageous because they got a couple of cut price deals there that have proven to be absolute masterstrokes. And when I say a big summer, again, I don't necessarily mean, they've got to spend 500 million, because I almost don't. I don't want to see Liverpool do that. Just spend smartly again. Find another McAllister, find another Gravenberch. If you could do that, happy days. But it's going to be a big summer, just because there's going to be a lot of players whose futures are up in the air. Now, I don't think they will sell every single one of them, and they will want to keep some level of continuity. So, for example, Luis Diaz, there's the links there. He will probably want to go. There will be offers for him, but Liverpool will be quite stringent about what they get there, because, for example, he's on low wages at the moment. He's had a really decent season playing in a couple of roles. He's versatile, isn't he? And he's a hard worker as well. And you don't want too much change. So, if the money's not right, they will just keep him, But there are clear ones who will move on. So Nunez, a starting point. I think Kostas Tsimikas a clear candidate to go. I think Endo, it's all on him if he wants to stick around to do this for another season. I don't think he'll want to, so I think he'll move. So you start to do this, and Joe Gomez, another one. These players will need replacing. So there's going to be a certain level of turnover pretty much guaranteed. And when that happens, you need to sign to replace these players. So it is going to be a big summer in that regard, because you've got 4 or 5 there that probably need signing. Plus, you're going to sign a starting left back, which again I can guarantee, and a starting centre forward, or a forward who can play in central areas, is a big aim as well. So, again, we're quickly getting up to kind of 5 or 6 signings there, which Liverpool ideally wouldn't do in one summer, but they acknowledge that if you sit the last summer out, which is pretty much what they did, it could end up being a little bit like this. And they've got great PSR headroom. They're in really good shape financially to do all this. So, and there's just an acknowledgement that it's going to need to be this kind of summer. So, all the talk that's come around of big summer previous seasons or whatever, and people really hinge on things and really get hung up on, well, FSG promised this, but it's been from reporters who are nowhere near it, who you can't rely on. People who would just, if you trust them, you deserve to be disappointed. Whereas I think, like I say, I like to think I've got a certain level of trust, and I believe it will be a big summer. Obviously, great reporters like David Ornstein and Paul Joyce are saying pretty similar. So I think that does tell you something, that it's going to be different to previous summers, and when these promises haven't been made by anyone who's close to it. And this summer, there's just no getting away from the fact that it needs to be that, because that turnover is pretty much guaranteed.
Yeah, it does feel like one way or another there's going to be a lot of change at Liverpool this summer. What happens, we'll have to see on that one. But before we get to that, there's just the small matter of a title to be won. I mean, In 6 days, 3 hours, 49 minutes, that game kicks off. And 2 hours later, Liverpool have won the league, haven't they?
Yeah, I would like to think so. I mean, Wednesday's still in play, isn't it, with the whole Crystal Palace Arsenal? But the way Crystal Palace are playing at the moment, I guess you wouldn't, and the way Arsenal are playing, actually, you wouldn't kind of hold out much hope for Palace getting a win in that one. And to be honest, ideally, they wouldn't get a win in that one. I guess they've also got to think, haven't they, Crystal Palace, about the fact they've got the FA Cup at the weekend, so maybe they'll go weekend team anyway. So I would quite like Arsenal to win. That is my personal view, primarily because I want to be right about saying they would win it against Tottenham a while ago. That's a big motivation, but also because I just think to have the opportunity to win it in front of fans and to do it yourselves would be just absolutely marvellous, wouldn't it? So really, yeah, how exciting is that you're going to be walking up to Anfield knowing that it's the day that Liverpool could win the league? It's absolute magic, isn't it? And what everybody's in it for, really. So, yeah, really exciting times for Liverpool fans. And, yeah, could be looking at Sunday's the day that it gets won.
And Spurs will be happy to play their part because they've got a Europa League semi-final first leg, I think 4 days later or whatever it is. And just to make sure they played a part in Arsenal not getting it, Spurs will step into this and hopefully just walk a few in practically, won't they?
Yeah, well, I guess, yeah, probably going to be a few changes maybe with that game in mind, although, 4 days is enough, isn't it, I guess, and maybe you'll be thinking about rhythm and trying out tactical things that you can try in that semi or whatever. It'll be interesting to kind of see that. But I think even if Tottenham go for their strongest team, Liverpool have got way too much for them at Anfield, haven't they? So, yeah, I'd like to think there's not really much chance of a kind of upset here from Tottenham or anything like that. So, yeah, it's just massive, isn't it? It's so exciting that Liverpool have got themselves in this position to go into that game knowing that you only have to beat a Tottenham side who are really struggling this season to clinch the league. And that is, yeah, very exciting.
Yeah, it does feel amazing. And it's all about winning on Sunday to clinch that title. So you'll naturally think the strongest lineup or the strongest way Slot sees it will play on Sunday. Do you think that means Kostas Tsimikas keeps his place and Diogo Jota's on the bench?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, a lot, we don't see, do we, in training who's performing at whatever level, and that will have an influence on what that team ultimately looks like. So that will play a big part in it. So if Robertson has a really good week in training, maybe he gets himself back in. So it's hard to predict in that regard. But you wouldn't be disappointed if it was Tsimikas. I think he's playing well at the moment. And
yeah,
again, I've said this so many times. I think he's been an underrated player for Liverpool, generally speaking. Anyway, I think he's he's not a bad player at all, and has shown that many times. So yeah, you wouldn't be disappointed if it was Tsimikas. But I guess a lot depends on who turns up in training this week and kind of grabs the shirt from for that left back spot and similarly up top.
Yeah, it will be hard to predict, but you still just expect them to win whatever. And these are the moments it all works for. Aside from all the transfer talk, contracts, and everything like that, these are sort of special moments. Like, I'm going on Sunday, and anyone who's tuning in, you want to be there a few hours before to greet the coach, just absorb all the content. It is one of those days where you should park everything else and just absorb it all, shouldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I say this about this game, but also about the last day of the season as well, is that the people here have dreamed about this for 35 years now, wanting to do this again, to hail a Liverpool team that's about to win the league or has won the league, and to celebrate it with everyone, with fans inside the ground, all these kind of magic moments. I think that's why, yesterday was so special as well, because again, you didn't get this in the last title. Liverpool, yes, they had won the title. They wrapped it up by the time COVID came around, but then fans didn't get that running until they did win it, and the joy of that, and to soak all that up. So, these are absolutely joyous moments, and to go into a game knowing that you're going to win the league it's just magic. And I can't wait to get in the ground on Sunday and just see what the atmosphere is like and see everybody's faces. And yeah, really make the most of this title win, because unfortunately it wasn't like this last time. But I think everybody's going to kind of make up for lost time, and it's going to be a pretty magic atmosphere. So yeah, enjoy every single second of it is my advice, because you don't always win trophies, and you don't always win the league, and this will only be the 20th time this has happened in Liverpool's entire history. So make the most of it.
Yeah, it does just feel like it's going to be a special day, a special week. It all feeds in to Sunday, where Liverpool can win their 20th league title. Brilliant to say, crazy at the same time. All it leads me to say ultimately on this podcast, though, is David, for the time, the insight, for answering all the questions. It is much appreciated.
Thanks for having me.
And ladies and gents, that was another Media Matters for Anfield Index.